Maamer, the Maamer has a mahalach, which I spoke about this nekuda last time, just for a minute or two. Right, so one of the inyanim and see this in sikhs as well, the fact in the Maamerim, right, so you have here, how many sifim is the Maamer? 12 sifim. And there are many inyanim. Just in this Maamer, Posach Eliyahu, literally almost every sif, or every two sifim is a naya sugya. You have Nes V'Teva, you have Das El Das Tachti, Hanhoge, Chayus, Ishavos, Choymer, Tzura, Rotzin, Dibur, etc. And then in Soif and Atzmus, Chilas. Right, so every sif is a ganze sugya. But Mitzad Sheni, there's a seder here. In other words, the fact that the Maamer is 12 sifim, it's not because we darf durchreiden in a sachin yon. Right, and that sometimes you have that. Maybe in you're learning a Maamer, ultimoge Maamer or a Maamer in a henshich. So that's a sachin yon. It's on reiten wegen der Indian, and then there's a lot of asvara there. But not necessarily could you say, okay, this is what we said on page 1, and this is how it leads into page 2, and then the next page, etc. But in the Maamerim, in the Rebbe's Mugadik Maamerim, alles is mamish with a seder. Whereas the fact that Sif Beis comes after Sif Aleph and Dal comes after Gimel and before Hey, there's a reason for it. If it would be missing there, you wouldn't be able to make the leap. And I saw, or a few Bachim asked Shilas in the Maamer in a few different places, they get to a few Sifim, what's this Sif doing here? Or it's very Geshmak Sif, so that's very Geshmak Yonim, but if the Sif was missing, the Nikud of the Maamer would still be there. Right? But that's one of the Yesoidus in the Lukit, that every Sif, every line, every inyan is Negeya. It's step after step. In order to bring us to the Nekudas HaChidush of the Maamer, which is Be'etzah from Sif Tes and on, we can only get there through all the Sifim. And each inyan is Negeya. Each inyan is another brick in this building that leads us to that point. So I'm going to go through all the bricks now, especially if not everyone is holding through that. I'm just going to lose the oilam. But I just wanted to put it down that it's a very Yisoidistic Indian, that if you're going through a sif, and then the next sif, and you feel that, what's the sif doing here, it's very important that maybe not the first time, maybe the second time you read the Maamer, you'll realize, or you'll be able to realize through Yigiyah, what it's doing here and why each Indian is integral to the Mahalach. What I want to speak in Klali is the general shaila and answer of the Maamer, right? So the shailas of the Maamer are be'etzem in the first 4 sifim, primarily in sifim Beis and Dalid. That's where the shailas are, and the answers are in the final answer is in Sif Yud Aleph and Yud Beis. Right, Yud Aleph, the first half of Yud Aleph, which is the 4 lines, answers the shailas in Sif Dalid, and the second half of Yud Aleph answers the shaila in Sif Beis. And then it goes Nachti for Sif Yud Beis, which is just on Sif Yud Aleph. So that's really where the questions, where the answers are. And here is a shtickle struggle that when you learn the Maamer, you read the shailas in Sif Beis and Dalid, and you come to the answer, primarily in Sif Yud Aleph, Mizet Nishan. Or it's the way the Maamer says the answer is Kemat L'Zol Be'Oisius of the Shaila. How many of the Bachim finished the Maamer? Very few. Okay, so it's a heads up. So it's a heads up. And it's a Shaila that many Bachim, as you go through the Maamer, it's a very Geshmak Maamer, it's a very Geshmak in Yonim, and then what's the Nikud of the answer? Or once you get the answer, it's like, okay, so we could have said that in the beginning. Right, so what's the Nikud that leads us to it? So, as I said, obviously there's a major build-up here of many sifim and many inyanim that bring us to that nekudah. But I want to zoom in on the main nekudah of the Maamer, l'cheira, that you see the Rebbe already addressing in Sif Gimel, and then from Sif Ches and on, which is the nekudah of Ratzon. That to understand the switch that happens in the Maamer from the regular Havana we have in Das El and Das Tachtin, to the new Havana, Das El Das Tachtin, it comes through understanding the musig of Ratzon, and how Ratzon plays a major part in the binyan here of the sugya. This Bechlal, the Nekudah of Ratzon, which areas Ratzon affects in the conversation, And the Rebbe's had Gasha in Ratzin. Because if you read over here the way the Rebbe's Masber Ratzin, it seems like a Dover Apashad. You might have heard similar Isis in Chassidus. But the MS is that this whole Mahalach in explaining Ratzin, meaning the Mashal on Ratzin and how Ratzin plays out in regards to the Eibusher, his Havos from a place of Ratzin, so the Kesher of the Eibusher with the world, looking through the prism of Ratzin, is the certain Mahalach of the Rebbe in this Maamer and other Maamer, but that's the Rebbe's Mahalach in Melukit, and how Dafka this Mahalach leads us to this beer. Meaning the Rebbe's Chiddush in Ratzin, as you see in Sifches starts with the Yeshloimar. There's a few other Yeshloimars, yeah? Yud starts with Yeshloimar. There's Yeshloimar in Sif Gimel as well, in the Chatzoi Ribua, in the second Ketva of Sif Gimel, Yeshloimar, which I'm going to connect to that Yeshloimar. So B'chlal, when the Rebbe says Yeshloimar, very often it's a Chiddush. And if it's a Ula Yeshloimar, then it's Mamish Mechudish. I'm going to get the exact difference of the Kudus Chiddush of the Yeshloimar. Ula Yeshloimar, but Ula Yeshloimar is a lot of times very, very Mechudish. But even Yeshloimar usually means it's the Rebbe's Chiddush, meaning it doesn't have a clear Makir Frier, it's the Rebbe saying it, Yeshloimar. So the Yeshloimar in Sifches is where the Rebbe is Magdir, the Indian of Ratzin, and Dafka, this Hakdara leads us to our destination, to the beer that I want to say in the new understanding of Das Tachtit, when we get to this Maamer. Whereas, if we go by the regular beer of Ratzin, without the Maamer, even with this whole build-up, we won't get to this Nikud. And I'll explain that Bez Hashem today. Okay, so what happens here is like this. So V'oifin Klali, so in Aleph Beis Gimel Dalid, we speak about the sugya of, one sugya basically splits into two. Das Elye, Das Tachte, was trifft sich is in Anhaged Nissis and Anhaged Tivis. Anhaged Nissis is be'etzem an expression of Das Elye, and Anhaged Tivis is an expression of Das Tachte. Because we said Kel Deis Havaya, the Eibishter's Kiviyachol perspective and relationship with the world is from two places, of Lamayla Yesh or Lamata Ayin, or Lamata Yesh or Lamayla Ayin. Or another Asi is the world Teifes Makim? Is the world part of the equation here? Mitzad, these two perspectives, comes from them, Tzvei Sugi Anhage. Does the Eibishter relate to the world in a way of Anhage Nisis? Nes means, right, Nes is basically the Eibishter overriding Teva. Meaning what the world thinks and says and feels, and the regular rules of nature don't mean anything. Right? Because the whole mitzvah of the world doesn't really take this market. A Nes is Eibishter saying, I'm doing what I want. This is the way it is. Masha'enki, Teva is the Eibishter is running this world with the rules that sort of exist. Obviously, they don't exist without the Eibishter. The Eibishter created those rules, but there's a set block of rules, and the Eibishter runs the world with those rules, meaning that the world's mitzias means something, and the Eibishter has to take the world's mitzias into account, and only through that, be manigo ilam. Fine. So Das Tachtein is connected to Teva, and Das Elyon is connected to Nes. So the Rebbe here says a word. Right, look over here on page Kuf Al. This is page 5 of the Kovetz in the Shloimar. Right, so the Shloimar. So the Rebbe goes deeper to explain the kesher of Nes and Tev to Das Elyon Das Tach. Shloimar Shashaychas Nes and Tev Das Elyon Das Tach. When you loyrak mitzad Shorsha, the Shorish Anisim u'Me'avaya, the Shorish Tevel Me'elikim, which is apparently look in the previous Maamer, but it's V'Yusadan, Maamer in Ayin Ches, and the Maamer in Sadik Ches. So it says that part. The Rebbe goes deeper, that there's a deeper connection. That actually, when you understand what Nes and Teva mean, you understand that it's directly related to Das Elyon Das Tach. Go in, you know. Gam Meitzarin is Nes V'Teva Atzma. You know, the Hagas Teva Yitzchak Baruch Hu Manig is called Nivra Lefi in Yanoi. The Zem by Yishman Hagazu Nivra and Teif Simvakim Lamata Yesh. And Hagan Nisis Hi Shakadosh Baruch Hu Manig is Oilam Kefir Et Soinoi V'Loi Kefi Tchunas V'Teva HaNivroi Ki Ban Hagazu HaNivroi Meinu Teif Simvakim Lamata Ay. Right, so we'll get to the Nekudah, the way the Rebbe explains when we get to Hagan Nisis. So what's the kesher of Hagan Nisis to Lamaila to Das Elye? Because Nes means that the Eibishter is Manig Oilam Kefir Et Soinoi V'Ervil. And that's connected to the idea of Lamata Ayin, the world that sees and not take the smokim, it's V'Ervil. So this itself is a very important Hagdara. Right, this also, many Bachram ask, what's the Chiddush? The Rebbe saying it's a Chiddush here. Without the Rebbe's Chiddush, we thought that Das Elyon Das Tachtin is connected to Nes V'Teva Pasha because one comes from the other. Yeah, but what does it mean one comes from the other? Because there's a Shaykh's Primus. Right? We never thought the Shaykh's Chipsoyis. So there's a few in Yonim here, but the Kohen I want to bring up when we get to what we're saying today is, because I could have said it a bit differently. Let's see when we get to Das Elyon. What's the Shaykh's Das Elyon to Nisim? Teva is from a place where the world, where this tfis is smoking. Nes breaks Teva, and the fact that Nes breaks Teva means that the Mitzvah Soilom isn't important, right? The Eibusher can break it, and he doesn't have to follow the rules of Teva. So then all Nes would tell us, or all Das Elyon would tell us, is that the Mitzvah Soilom isn't Teva's Makom. That's it. But the Rebbe wants to go to the word that was is Das Elyon, and what's Nes? The Nekuda of Ratzin. It's not just that the world isn't Teifas Makim there. Because the fact that the world isn't Teifas Makim could have other explanations, as we'll get to when we learn Sif Ches. There's other Biurim Chassidus. Why Mitzad Das Elyon the Veld Haknish Gets Teifas Makim? But the word that Rebbe wants to say is no, it's not stam that because the Likus is moved off from the Bria, Be'ein HaRoich. The word is Ratzin. And Ratzin is and the word of Ratzin, the way we'll explain soon, that it's all about the Erevil. Okay, so I'm just saying here, we're not doing the beer yet, but we're saying the word over here, that it could have Kefir Tzayde. Now, what is this word of Kefir Tzayde? So you look over here in Sif Ches, so Sif Ches comes after a whole Arichis, that Betzim starts from Sif Hey, first Hey involved is one unit, and then Sif Zayin, where the Rebbe basically explains that there is, in the Gel in Yanenu, so there is Choymer and Surah. Choymer is the etzem mitzios of everything, the existence of every nivra, and then the Surah is everything else about it, right? Its size, its personality, its expression, the whole. So the Choymer and Surah, their Makir and Alikus, where it comes from is two different dargis. Choymer comes from the Dibur of the Eibishter, and the Tzura comes from the Eibishter's Ratzin. And what this Chassidus explains is Metavich, L'chayra, there's a stira in different psukim. That one pasuk says, Kolach Shech Chafetz Havaya Asa, that sees everything the Eibishter does is from a place of Ratzin, Chafetz Chayetz. Nacha pasuk state, B'divar Havaya Shemayim Nasu, so L'chayra the Makir is Dibur. Unacha pasuk state, Kulam B'chachma Asi, so everything comes from Chachma. So we have your Chachma, Ratzin, and Dibur. So where do they all fit? Now that's what we've said. This is a whole. There's many different mahalchim here, and the Rebbe there's a sicha in Lam Ches where the Rebbe just brings Dvar Pella from Chassidus that Chassidus read that Ratzin and Dibur are the shoyrish of two parts of the Bria, Chaymer and Sur. The word is in Chassidus. There's two different mahalchim, and in all the Maamer of Chanukah there's one mahalach, and all the Maamer of Purim is opposite mahalach. In all the Maamer of Chanukah the mahalach is that Surah comes from Ratzin and Chaymer comes from Dibur, and the Maamer of Purim is Punkt Farkert. Posach Eliyahu, Yudas Kislev, it's the Kuf of Chanukah, so it goes in the Chanukah Mahalach. Now that itself doesn't verstehen, how do the two Mahalachim work together? L'chayr, the way this Maamer plays out, l'chayr there's a beer, but ten l'chachem. So, and then where's Chachma involved? And Chachma is sort of the bridge, that Amshaches Haratzin, Yedei Chachma, that the Tzureh comes from Ratzin through Chachma. Now, that Nekuda will be explained a little more about it in the following matter, but again, the Tzureh comes from Ratzin and the Chaymer comes from Dibur. Now, so the second Ketler Sivzayin, the Rebbe says that we have every Nivra has a part of it that it comes from Ratzin and a part of it comes from Dibur is B'dafke. Because ultimately the Eibusher could have done, right, it could have been very different. It could have both from Ratzin and both from Dibur. Why is it that every Nivra that exists is partly from Dibur, partly from Ratzin? Because Dibur creates a mitzias of Yesh, or at least the impression that we feel ourselves as a Yesh. Ratzin brings Bittul into the Nivra. What we want is the Shiluv of Bittul and Mitzias, because that's the ultimate goal of the Rebbe Tachtonim. What the Eibusher wants is that there should be an Oila and Vas is a Yesh, filled Zichar a Yesh, and this world that sees itself as a Yesh should be Nispat of the Eibusher. That's what the Rebbe Tachtonim is. There's a Tachtin, somebody that kilo independent of the Eibusher, and he should be Nispat. If the world would only come from Ratzin, we wouldn't feel a sense of independence. It would just be like Malach, or Hefer, Spheris, there wouldn't be any Tachtin. So Dibur creates a Tachtin. But if it would only come from dibur, we would stay a yes, we would always be full of ego, we wouldn't be able to be nispat, we wouldn't be able to connect to the Eibishter. That in our sense of self that comes from dibur, we're able to find and reach bittul. Okay, this is what the Rebbe says too. That's the Shaila, okay, that's all very nice, but that's facts. Dibur creates independence, yeshus, and Ratzin creates a sense of bittul, or brings about a sense of bittul. Why? What's the shaykhs of Ratzin to bittul and dibur to yeshus? So this is what the Rebbe says here in Sifches. Why is bittul associated with Ratzin and yeshus comes from dibur? Ki haratzin eine metzias v'rak gilui ha'etzem al derech haratzin shebenefesh ha'adam shu rak hatoyas v'amshachas ha'nefesh v'lechein gam ha'ishavos shemei haratzin inyanahu lo yizeh shemishavim nivroim elo zeh shal yidei ha'ishavos nishlam haratzin. That's Ratzin. And dibur is dibur l'vush ha'nifrod the noisiv lazeh sha'dibur hu metzias Kevan she'inyono Yehusha medaber l'zulosir, ebezeh atzma yu nifrod me'odam ha'medaber, va'ad she'adibur yoytze v'nifrod me'odam gam b'poyel, v'lochein ha'ishavos she'mei ha'dibur yimetzios yesh. Okay, so what does the Rebbe say? First of all, Pasuk Ta'ich says like this, that Ratzin, so there's a few layers to this chiluk. Ratzin is, first he says Ratzin is not metzias, and on the flip side, dibur is metzias. Noisel esha dibur metzias. Ratzin is not a metzias, dibur is metzias. Was made as dibur is mitzias and Ratzin is not mitzias. Okay, a person sai has dibur, which is part of who we are. We're able to talk, and we have Ratzin. We're able to want things. Right? Hopefully, every functionally human being has sai Ratzin, sai dibur. But Ratzin is not considered mitzias. Dibur is considered mitzias. In was is there nishna mitzias? All it is giluya etzem, as it brings the dogma by the person that what is Ratzin? Hatoyas v'amshachas hanefesh. Right? Those are the words. It's an expression of the soul. So Ratzin is a Metzias, Dibur is not a Metzias. Okay, because Ratzin is not a Metzias, therefore what? Just like Ratzin is not a Metzias of the Nefesh, his whole Indian is the Gili of the Nefesh. So this sort of leads to V'lachein, whatever Ratzin creates, whatever's created from Ratzin, what is the Indian of that B'riyah, the thing that was created, what is it all about? It is not the fact that a nivra was created, or is the fact that there's a creation happening, that what's the taking of that creation? Not that something is being created, but that the Ratzin is being fulfilled. Fine. So what's going on? Dibur is verkehrt. Dibur is all about, it's a metzias, and not only it's a metzias, when a person speaks, it leaves the person on a very basic physical level, right? The dibur leaves the person and goes over to somebody else, and severt, so you have the nukuda of a nifra. So, you see over here, when you get to Ratzin, the Rebbe is Mitzayin, Orah 44, the Rebbe is Mitzayin, Teshuvah Yisrael HaMitzayin, and in bold, V'sham Nisman. When there's a bold, V'sham Nisman, it's Tak V'sham Nisman. We're not just bringing the Maamer Makkim, because we bring Maamer Makkim. Always Maamer Makkim, V'sham Nisman, it's very important to look at the Maamer Makkim. Now, so the Rebbe brings a few Maamer Makkim. The sugya of Ratzin and Chassidus is brought in many places. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to focus on the Nekudas that explain the Maamer Makkim that are brought there in Shuvah Yisrael, which both in Klal are Mitzayin to Samach Vav and Ayin Beis, and try to zoom in a bit on what it says there, and then the Nekuda of the Rebbe learns Ratzin here in Shuvah Yisrael has a few more Isias than here. After there's a few other Maamerim, the Rebbe says a similar vart. This is the vart that you find in the look at this Nekuda, always very, very big kitzer, but this vart. Understand the vart, that the person understands what's the pashas the Nekuda. So, right, so Bichlal, Ratzin, which we know that in Chassidus, Vipsari Echzelika, Chassidus will bring a big part of Chassidus, it's a Retzef in Seder Shtalshalos. Seder Shtalshalos, the way it's ba the Maila and Seder Shtalshalos in the Nefesh HaAdam. The Eibishter has 10 spheres, we have 10 koiches. The Eibishter has koiches makifim, so we have koiches makifim. Right, and basically everything in the human psyche, human experience, is all a reflection of what's going on above. And because we're able to, on some level, understand ourselves, by understanding ourselves, we're able to have epis ha'avana in mastutzich l'mayla. So when Chassidus brings Ratzin, so Ratzin is a koyach makif versus seichel and midis that are koiches pnimiyim. The eser koiches are seichel chabat v'gas mehin. Ratzin is the koiches makifim. And from the Lamaila you have the 10 koiches, Lamaila are the 10 spheres in Atzilus, and the koiches makifim are higher than that. So we can call it Ratzin and Taino, it will be Arich and Atik, Keser, it goes on Keser. But even though Chassidus speaks about the location very often, it's very important not to get stuck in the geographical spot, but it's more about the Havana saying. So when we're saying about koiches makifim or Lamaila, in Atzilus, or higher than Atzilus, we're basically saying in Seder Shtalshus and L'mayla mi Seder Shtalshus. There is that space where we are Kleifes Makom, where we have a connection to the Eibishter. And then there is, if it's higher than the Tzimtzum, or higher than Atzilus, there's no Kalim, the Vart is that there's a Havdalah. It's removed from the Velt. In that Darga Velikus, the Velt hat nicht kein Tfis Makom Gedetzfried. Now, so how does Ratzin bring out this Nikoda? So L'moshel in Samach Vav, he says that by the Eibishter, these Havos, when the Eibishter creates something, it's from a place of Ratzin. It's from a place of Ratzin. Why are we saying that? Why are we saying that it's from a place of Ratzin? Because Lahavdil, from a person down here, when down here, I do something, this that I'm interested in doing something, this that I'm motivated about something, can Pashut be because that thing is something they're talking to me. Right? We don't live in a vacuum. We're part of this world, and Admo Medini, we're social creatures, and we're affected by our surroundings. Sai by the people, the reality on the ground, by certain things that attract us or push us away. And Sai, we live in a world with the rules of logic, where there's things that make sense, things that don't make sense. So this that a person wants to eat a certain meichel, it's not just because I want, right? Meaning that this that I want, this thing that I'm attracted to, has a certain quality that talks to me. There's something that I'm missing that this thing has, right? So I want a cup of water. I'm thirsty and I want certain food. And a person has certain connections. Why am I friendly with this person? Why is a person oyev this person and not somebody else? Because there's something about the other person that talks to them. That's mashlim a chisar that they have, or either you have opposites attract, or you have arkir. They're both the same personality, so they certainly connect. Right? So there's certain thing about the zulas that pulls me towards it. So that's the mashal in the world of midas. Midas is that there's something about that other thing that I like. Either I'm attracted to it, or gvura, I'm pulled away from it. There's something about it that either makes me come closer or makes me move away from it. Al derech zeh, you have on a higher level, you have shtikul in moichin. Moichin it's not that the thing itself, kilo, is pulling me and like an animal, instinctively I follow it, but I have a head. A cup, and things make sense, things don't make sense. And because I'm an ish sichli, I follow what makes sense. Now, who decided the rules of logic? Not me. These are rules that exist, right? I could want, as much as I want, that 2 + 2 should equal 5. You could say it, but it won't make any sense. 2 + 2 = 4 because these are the rules. So, mugbal, it's not all about me. That there are rules out there that make me choose that, make me go in that direction. The Eibishter, you can't say there's anything that exists, or any rules that are out there, or any metzias that pulls him towards it, or that he's defined by those rules. So everything the Eibishter does is from a place of ratzin, right? Where it's all what's a ratzin? Ratzin is ichvil. It's not about what you bring to the table. It's not about you, it's about that I want. Okay, so what do we see here? That in Ratzin versus Seichel and Midas, the Seichel and Midas, the moment I use my Seichel, Achas Kam, when I use my Midas, I'm entering a space that a Zulas exists. That's what Midas are. That it's not just me for myself, it's me as I relate to outside things, and as outside things talk to me. certain things that they look great, right? So that so it takes it's moishech the person. See a beautiful sunset. It's moishech. Now, Masheik and Ratzin is me completely disconnected from the outside world. So when I say that the Eivishter creates the world from Ratzin, I'm basically saying that the Makar ha'olam in Elikus is from a darga in Elikus that's movdal from the world. Whereas by a human being you'll say the part of me that connects with you, or let's say I make a project, I'm doing a project. The part of me that's invested in the project is the part of me that has a shaykhus to that project versus, okay, now I need time off, and then I okay, give me Shabbos off, and now I sort of leave, right? I go back, I come back to myself, and now I'm back in touch with myself. That self that's beyond what I'm involved in. But I can't say that there's only a lower level of him, sort of that part of him that's connected to the Bria, because what is a part that's connected to the Bria? The Bria doesn't exist yet. It's all about what you want. So the Nekuda of Ratzin is that even when he's creating the world, it's coming from a place of him, the way he's moved from the Bria. Okay, so comes to this and says, because the Bria comes from the Ratzin of the Eibishter, therefore the Welt is bottled to him. Why is the Welt bottled? Because the Eibishter is moved from the Bria. Even when he's creating the world, finished the Welt, yeah? He doesn't need the world. There's nothing about the world that's talking to him. It's all because Ervil. So he never got any closer to the Bria. So even after he creates it, there's still this very strong divide. They haven't built any connection. Other than the fact that he actually created it, but he hasn't gotten any closer. Whereas by us, we get more involved. Right? And this is about some noises that Rebbe uses in Sif Gimel of Bara and Nivra, where you have where the Nekuda of Utziba v'Nivro, it happens. He doesn't get invested and involved in the Bria. So mitzad that Nekuda, so what does Ratzin bring out? Ratzin brings out that the Eibishter is moved from the Bria. Why does the Bria coming from Ratzin? Why does that Bria have an element of bittul within it? This is Nekuda, because he's so far. The Ein Aroi creates that bittul. That's Mahalik. He brings the Nekuda in Samachvav, explains in other places. It's a Maamer. Ayin Beis, which a big part of Ayin Beis is especially the beginning of Ayin Beis, the Hemshech and the end of Ayin Beis and Ayin Gimel, is very, very much about Ratzin and the difference between Ratzin and all the other Koiches and Nefesh. How the Eibishter has an oir, there's an oir connected to the Bria, and an oir that's the Galas Hatzmusay. So there it speaks varichus about Ratzin, and there the Rebbe Shvasein explains the Indian more. He says like this: the difference between Ratzin and Seichel and Midas is not only, as we said earlier, that Seichel and Midas already give space and are on some level dependent on the outside world, on the zulas that it talks about or connects with. Ashenk and Ratzin is me for myself. It's not different. The difference between Ratzin, Seichel and Midas starts in Ratzin and Seichel and Midas Gufa, as they relate to the Nefesh. Meaning not only as Ratzin and Seichel and Midas relate to what they want and think about and connect with, but rather, what is Ratzin? What is Seichel? What kind of koyach are they? And how do they relate to the Nefesh, to their source? And here it starts in Afkimia. What's the difference? The difference is, Seichel and Midas, they are a Metzias. Mashenkin and Ratzin is not a Metzias. Meaning not only Seichel and Midas connect to allow the Zohar to be a Metzias, the reason they allow the Zohar to be a Metzias is because they themselves are a Metzias. Ratzin not only when it wants something, so that thing isn't, sort of there's that bittul of Ein Aroich, but Ratzin itself, as it relates to the Nefesh, is not a Metzias. How do we see that? So very practically you see it like this. So there's a Nefesh, which is the human being, me, myself, right? The Ani, the Etzema Adam. Now, this person has different ways of expressing himself. One way is, as we say, a mensch nutzt sein Kopf. right? You use your head, meaning you have a head, and you're using your head, which basically implies that there's me and there's my head, and the head is a tool, right? The head is the seichel. I'm using seichel to etwas verstehen. I'm using midas to feel. And how do you see that? How do you see that play out? It plays out like this. So right now, I'm learning a Maamer Chassidus, I'm learning the Maamer. Chassidus finishes, and I move on to something else. Now he's learning a Sikha, now he's davening, he's involved in something else completely. So the cup, right, so that seichel, right now, the nefesh, the person, is not in that var seichel. So that seichel disappeared. You can say, okay, so as I'm learning it, I know the Maamer, I know this sif, I know I'm talking about Ratzin, I understand about Ratzin, but in 20 minutes from now, I'll be on something else. I don't know that anymore. That's not true. You're not thinking about it, but you know it. Right? Tomorrow, you'll get back to the sugya and you'll pick up from where you left off. Sometimes you have information that sits dormant by a person for years, and memories that the person completely forgot about it. Years later, they return. Right? Because once there's seichel, the nefesh now use seichel to understand something, and once it understood that understanding exists. Even when the person leaves that space, the idea still exists. Alachas kama v'kama, that if now this person gives over that information to somebody else, right, and then this guy can move on to a different place, or he's over min, he's not alive anymore, his ideas exist. He writes down his var seichel, he's not here, the ideas are here. Al derech zeh midis, and midis, it's a little more dakostic. We Chassidus explains like this. So that's where you have midis, right? So a person is now in his spider, and midas aches, and midas tzay. He wants to give. Nope. So this midas aches was mo'ir into so get. So even when the chesed dies down, right? People are moody, yeah. And now he's in the matzav of chesed, then he moves on to gvura or whatever, another midah. Interesting, I just saw a Fabrengian, but that was a very interesting hagdara. They were speaking about that a person has different kavim, so a person is chesed and gvura. Where do you see a person chesed and gvura? Chesed is when a person is in a good mood, and gvura is there's nicht mehr gute Stimmung. That's chesed and gvura. The people fluctuate in their moods. Chesed and gvura is a good mood and a not good mood. That's how you see that person chesed and gvura. Which, when you think about it, that's what it is, right? It's you're in a state of ispashtus and it's a state of tzims. But anyway, so when once you gave that chesed, so even if you change your mood, what you gave was given. But that's not the whole vart, because then you're saying it's not that chesed stays. What you gave stays. But you can say something about ratzin, as we'll get to ratzin. The vart is once there's a certain regesh, there's a certain feeling. That feeling never goes away. Right, so let's say when a person has chesed and a person gives something to somebody else, and if I see you give it to him, and you show a person a certain kesher by giving them, it's not just that you gave the person that gift stayed by the person. That regesh, that gefühl stays by the person. Right? You were makbiyah, you gave that person a certain sense of validation and acceptance and happiness, that stays. Well, there's that by a person, when you have a certain feeling for something, that feeling never disappears. Right? Therefore, you see, let's say a person that has a connection with somebody else, and then they have a fallout, and they don't get along anymore. But the kesher that was here before never completely disappears, because a regesh doesn't disappear. It's a metzias. It's a metzias. It doesn't fully disappear. So the seichel is a metzias, the midas are metzias, and therefore, even when the nefesh leaves it, they're here. Mashein ken rotzin. What happens with the rotzin? Rotzin is ein zach. It's not the pshat that the nefesh has a bunch of tools. One of the tools is to want things, and now it uses its ratzin to want. No, that's not what ratzin is. Ratzin is, I want. Ratzin is, the human being is now, is in a tnuah of mishicha, that he's pulled in a certain direction. That's what ratzin is. Well, that's my nefesh betzim is disconnected, right? Not like our seichel and midas that live in a world of certain rules, and I have to follow the laws of logic, or certain things talk to me and make me want them. But etzem nefesh is ani latzmi. Ich darf keinen nicht. There is keinen nicht. There's only me. And now ratzin is that this person, as he is for himself, that doesn't darf garnish it, is now, for some inexplicable reason, there is no reason, that's the idea of Ratzin, is now going in a certain direction. Now, I want to get out of myself and I want to connect to something else. Why? There's no why. Because this Ratzin comes from a place of there's only me without anything, without any rules, and without anything that will pull me. But I want it. So that's Ratzin. Now, because Ratzin Kol Inyano is the nefesh that ich will, so there's no place, you can't put a line, you can't cut the ich and the ich will. Okay, the ich disappears, the person, so right now I want it. But then in 10 minutes, all of a sudden that Ratzin, right, that urge disappears, and now there's some shirayim. No, there's no shirayim. There's no shirayim. Because it's the nefesh itself was in one direction, and now it goes somewhere else, and that's it. It's not there anymore. Whenever you see this, what should I say, taibas kekash in it, you see the person has a very, very strong urge for something, and right now, either gets or doesn't get it. And then he moves on to other things, and it's meaningless. All of a sudden, these things are meaningless. And that we have a very interesting dynamic here, where Dafka, those things he cared about the most, all of a sudden become meaningless. Why? Because that's the way Ratzin works. When you want it, it's the strongest thing, because that's a manefesh. But the moment you move on from that Ratzin, there's no lingering after effects, because there's nothing here. Because it's the nefesh. Either the nefesh is there or the nefesh is not there. So see, then comes and says like this. He says, okay, so now what happens is, so Ratzin is, Hometzias is, what's the nefesh will? So then if the nefesh wants something, so koloi, the nefesh wants it, it's there. Once the nefesh doesn't want it, completely, it disappears. So if the Eibishter creates the world mitzad Ratzin, so the Eibishter wants the world exists. But the moment the Eibishter, that Ratzin isn't there, vilnish, right? So now the etzem, the atzmus of the Eibishter, now is it nimshach in that Ratzin? So then what happens? There's nothing lingering. If the world would be nivra from moichin and midis, even if the Eibishter Ki'ilu would disconnect himself from that was moichin and midis, the moichin and midis still stick around and their effect sticks around. But Ratzin is one with the Eibishter. So if the Eibishter isn't right now in a state of Ratzin for the world will disappear. The world will cease to exist. So Mele, this is what brings about the bittul to the Welt. Why? Because the Welt is only here because the Eibishter wants it. The moment there won't be Ratzin, the world will cease to exist. So Be'etzem, every moment, the world is completely dependent on the Ratzin. You can't, right? And if the Ratzin won't be here for a moment, there won't be any Welt. So even the Shasmaisa, as there is a Ratzin, right? And it's not Shasmaisa because we know the Eibishter's Ratzin is right? The Eibishter doesn't stop having that Ratzin. But even as there is a Ratzin here, and it brings the world into existence, but the world is basically living on borrowed time. Right? The world is only here because it's very similar to Shaykh al. The world is only here because the Eibishter is mechadish it b'chol rega. It's a deeper havana in the ischadshus. It's here because the Eibishter wills it into existence. Take away that Ratzin, the world will cease to exist. So that brings a sense of bittul to this world where you sense I'm only here because the Eibishter is roitzeh. Take away that Ratzin of the Eibishter and I have no kiyum whatsoever. I have no mitzvah. Okay, so now. So here comes the Rebbe in the Maamer, and the Rebbe says like this: that what's the bittul oilam? The bittul oilam is zeh shal yidei ha'ishabos nishlam haratz. What's the word? It's a mahalach. It comes from the same place as the Maamer in Ayin Beis, but the final word is fresh. But what's the word? The word is. What is Ratzin? Kol inyane of Ratzin is one thing, right? There is no Ratzin is a myth. There isn't something called Ratzin. When we want to say that the nefesh is nimshach in a direction, we call it Ratzin. It's a term that we use. So Ratzin, what is Ratzin? The nefesh. So al derech zeh, this translates. So Ratzin is the nefesh. What is that which is created by Ratzin? Ratzin. right? Because the Ratzin is the expression of Nefesh, so what does the Ratzin say? The Ratzin basically says, there's me, and this is an expression of myself. So when something comes from Ratzin, that's what Ratzin gives off. That's what Ratzin brings. What Ratzin brings into being is, when the Ibishter wants something. When we say you want something, it is, this is a self-expression. That's what Ratzin is. So the Ratzin is a self-expression, and that which is wanted is that self-expression. So when Ratzin wants something, so Ratzin brings a world into being. What is that world? The world, it's not a world. Yeah, if you're using your hands and you're pushing, you're able to touch it. There's the world, but was is it? Was schreiter? What's it all about? What's its message? What's the narrative here? The narrative is ich will. And by this coming into being, there was a milui of my ratzin. Nishlam haratzin, right? It's an expression, it's a fulfillment of the ratzin, it's a fulfillment of that expression. So this brings to another Havana in Bittul. Right, so we had the first oifen in Bittul is, what's the Bittul oil that comes from Ratzin? The Bittul is, Ratzin basically means that I have no connection with you. I'm removed from you. I'm not giving you any space. It's an in of richuk. Noch an oifen is that what's Ratzin? Ratzin basically means a constant dependency on me. Without Ratzin, you have no existence. So the Mela, it's a Bittul of complete, of dependence, right? You're totally. The fact that any day you could cease to exist, even now you have a very weak, flimsy existence. But now, but according to this vart, it's not just another vart. It completely flips the vart. Now, what is the bittul? What do we say? What's the bittul that comes in the nivra mitzad ratzin? It's the ultimate kiruv. And to use another, it's the strongest mitzias kiviyachol of the nivra. It's a mitzias of bittul. What are we saying? We're saying here now, if a world that comes mitzad seichul, midas, dibur, any other koyach, the world is its mitzias, azulas, with whatever level the world is at. Now we're saying mitzad ratzin, was is developed. Ratzin. It's an expression of the Eibishter. It's an expression of the Eibishter's Ratzin. In a way, it's punkt farker. It's the ultimate kiruv. It's saying, what is the world? The world is the Eibishter. It's not a richuk. It's not a I don't exist. It's an ultimate existence. It's a completely different kind of existence. What is the Metzias Ha'olam? Ritzoy Yisbar. You see a murdik of word in Sif Tes, and also someone asked me, it's a lashon here in Sif Tes, the second line is Shleimer, the chayis v'nefesh l'nivroim heim haratzin. This is based off the whole pilpul in the Maamer. We're coming to a maskana that the chayis, the pashtus, this habus is ratzin, and the chayis is lower level. But based off the whole havana here of chayis and habus and chayim b'tzura, we come to maskana the chayis and nefesh. But the chayis and nefesh l'nivroim is from the ratzin, is associated with ratzin. Because that's what ultimately happens here. That now the Welt is Ratzin. What is the Welt? Mili HaRatzin. An expression of the Eibishter's Ratzin. What's Ratzin? The Eibishter himself. Now, the fees this Betzim is Nidvair, the whole Mahalach, and say it in a minute. This is what changes from Sif Dalid to Sif Dalid to Sif Yud Aleph. Sif Yud Aleph. Basically, the Rebbe has a shaila. We say the Shtei Desim has both Saidas, Saidas, Elyin, or Mushrish in Eretz Yisrael. One comes from Lamayda and Kates, and one from the Kav in Eretz Yisrael, Lamayda and Kav. The Rebbe has a shaila, but Lepoyel, even if, so there's two shailas, but one of the shailas is, even if Lepoyel, the Shoirish of Das Tapin is from Lamayda Adi, is Lamayda and Kates from the Eibishter's Helen. But what's the Havana there? That the Eibishter is Lamayla Adikit, which means the Eibishter, just like the Eibishter has the ability to express himself b'ligvul, the Eibishter can conceal himself b'ligvul. Because the Eibishter can conceal himself, therefore that brought about the Tzimtzum and the Parsois and everything that's after that, which is different layers of concealment on the emes of Avayla. And because of that, there's a world, and the world sees itself and feels itself as a yesh, as a mitzias, right? Because of the Lamayla Adikit. The Rebbe asked, Taka, this that the world comes from the Mailadin Tachlis, this that the world is Das Tachlim and the world exists and has a sense of Metzias, is Mushrish and Mailadin Tachlis, but Sof, what's going on here? Mailadin Tachlis means that the Eibishter covers himself up, sort of creates the big lie. That's the Eibishter's ability to create the big lie. And the big lie is that we don't see Elikus. Because we don't see Elikus, therefore we feel ourselves as a Yesh. So the Poyel, yes, this that Lamata Yesh Lamayla Ayin is mushrish in our Yitzhak, but it doesn't make Das Tachtin true. For Karen, it makes it a bigger lie. The lie is the greatness of the Eibishter. The Eibishter is bleak full in our Yitzhak that he could create the great lie. But it's a lie. No, and according to the Maskana, what is it? And we say the Maskana that also that the world comes from the Eibishter's Lamayla Adi Kate. So what changed? You look in the Maamer, you'll see where the sort of Shvet comes up. But that's the Var. Now, according to this Mahalich, this that we see ourselves as a Metzias, and we have that inherent sense of Yeshus, it's not because of the great lie of the Tzimtzum. Yeah, there was a Tzimtzum. But the Vart is that it's a Tzoyna Yisbarech. The Eibishter wants us to feel ourselves as a Metzias. The Eibishter wants Teva to exist. The moment the Ratzin is part of the equation, Bas made Ratzin. Ratzin made whatever comes from that Ratzin is him. And that's where the Rebbe's word of Ratzin comes in. Any other beer in Ratzin won't do that for us. It won't give us that word. You say that the Ratzin is Be'in Aroich, and the Ratzin it creates that bittul from a sense of a complete dependency. Say there, all of that we knew before. Right? The great law is also dependent on the Eibishter. On the Eibishter being Lamayla Adi Kates. This that there's a great Helen is taken because the Eibishter Lamayla Adi Kates, the Eibishter is moved from the Bria. And the Eibishter is Madul himself and disconnects himself from the world, and that's what makes the space for the lie. But once it's a lie, it can't stay Sheideis in Emes. But now that they say the Vart of Ratzin is that whatever comes from Ratzin is him, is an expression of him. So it could be the greatest lie on planet Earth. Over dust is there. So you'll call it a lie. The lie is truth. What's the truth? The truth of that is it's an expression of him. And that's the whole Mahalach. The Mahalach is that Aleph is N, Das Tachtin is N. Obviously that brings the question, why don't you Das Alim say, but that's already the flip side of the conversation. Yeah. How do you get to? By learning the mind.
The last show you mentioned it was Das Eliyahu. It was like Yesh, Yesh, Ayin,
Yes, Ayin, yes.
How does this whole Shiur prevent?
That's a little bit of the Pashtos. The word is that the Yesh, there's a higher Das where Yesh Anivra, Yesh Amit, and then there's Yesh Anivra and the Ayin of Yesh Anivra, but then there's the Ayin of the Yesh Amit, and then there's the Ayin of the Yesh Anivra and the Yesh Anivra, right? So the Ayin of the Yesh Anivra is not the Eibishter himself. It's already sort of a Mitzumtzim Darge. The way the Eibishter relates to this world, that the world is famous Makkah. But now that I say that level of Ayin of Yesh Nivra is also Ratzin.
Not just the Yesh.
Right? Without the Maamer, I would come and say the Ayin of the Yesh Amiti is Ratzin. The Ayin of the Yesh Nivra is Dibur. Malchus of Atzilus, that's in the Bria, or Seichel and Midas. But now I'm coming and saying, right, not saying exactly to set up that way, but the two Lashonis of the Maamer and this word, it's coming and saying, the Ayin of Yesh Amiti is Ratzin. Ayin of Yesh Nivra is Oiched Ratzin. Everything's Ratzin.
Yes.
If the Ayin of the Yesh Nivra is Ratzin, the Yesh is the muley of the Ratzin. Why do we call the Ayin of the Yesh Nivra the Ayin of the Yesh Nivra? Because the whole gather of this Dargan Elikos is to create the world, is here for the world. So the Yesh Nivra is sort of the one in charge. It is the primary Mitzias here, and the Ayin of the Yesh Nivra is here to serve it, here to bring it into being. That L'cher tells me that the Ayin Yesh Nivra accepts the Mitzias of the world. The world has a Tfis Makim Bayit. But now I'm coming and saying that yes, it's true that the Ayin of the Yesh Nivra is here in the world and gives space for the Yesh Nivra, but not because on that level the world is Takatevis Makim. It's because the Ayin of the Yesh Nivra wants The Eibishter wants then the level of Ayin Yesh HaNivra, it should be the Ayin of the Yesh HaNivra. But it's weiter mitzad Ritzoy Noi. That's the one.